Hi. I haven't made a video in a while, so I thought I'd just chat about something for a while. I've just been reading, I know this is well in the past, but I've just been reading some old reviews of, as I say, as everyone knows, far from everyone, as whoever's watched a few of my videos or something would know, I'm a big fan of the Final Fantasy series. And I was just having another go. This is about the fifth time I've tried to play Final Fantasy XII, and you can probably already tell where this is going. And I've been reading some other people's reviews of the game, and hold on. I wanted to give some opinions, or some, yeah, they are opinions. I wanted to talk about why I despise Final Fantasy XII so much. It's unbelievable. Let's start at the beginning. The first Final Fantasy game I ever played was 7. I'm 20 now. That came out in 97, so 13 years ago, so I would have been about 7 or 8 when it came out. So that was the first one that I played, and it was incredible. I wouldn't say, I'd say, I know there's this big kind of thing, everyone says, oh yeah, 7 was the best one. It's one of the best ones. It may be the best one, in my opinion. I would say others came close. I would say the closest to 7 was probably 10. If I had to pick them in order, only counting from 7 onwards, because they're the only ones that I played as a kid. I mean, I've played the others since, but you didn't really have the same kind of thing. I would say of the what I would call the modern ones, so 7 to 12, the order goes, for me, goes something like 10 and 7 at the top. Can't really pick between one. Then 8, then 9, and then 12. I do play 11, but that's another story. That's something completely different. But 12 was just a massive disappointment for me. I think the mistake they made was that when they were hyping it up and everything, they said it's going to be different and we're trying something new. And you think, yeah, okay, maybe it's good to be different in terms of what the story is going to be about, or certain mechanics and stuff, but the problem was they removed everything that made it a Final Fantasy game. It's it bears more resemblance now to a Zelda game than it does a Final Fantasy game. Because the thing is, people say, oh yeah, it's great that they've taken this new step, but the thing is, the thing that especially grinds me up is the combat system. And a lot of people say, oh yeah, it's great because, oh, I hate the whole ATB separate battle screens thing. But for me, that was that was a part of Final Fantasy, and Final Fantasy has always used that system. I mean, variations on that system, but it has always used that system from 1 till 10, and 10.2 even used that system. 11 didn't, but 11 was an MMO, and that system doesn't work for an MMO. But the thing is, it's always used this system, and then they decide to just remove that and replace it with what they have now. And I think, why would you remove such a massive part of the series? It's like if you let's take another series like Resident Evil and said, right, we're not using guns anymore. We're going to make it purely knife fighting or something. It's I mean, yeah, they've changed the format of it, but it's essentially been the same. I mean, it's like them taking Resident Evil and saying, right, we're now gonna use the Final Fantasy system where you have separate battle screens and everything. It doesn't work because that's not part of that series, and it's part of what made it good. And for 12, they just basically have done that. They've removed basically a huge part of it. And the thing is, I've never finished it, but I've played through it I tried to play through it a number of times, and it gets to the point where you just think, I don't care about any of the characters. The characters are so bland, and none of them seem to. It's like the characters could be anybody. You just don't really give a crap about them. It's like, take any one from the series in the past, maybe not the very, very early ones, but of the modern ones, you always had some connection with the characters, and then with 12 again, that's gone. The characters just feel very stock, and I just couldn't get into it. And the other problem that I have, I get the impression that it's built like an MMO. It seems like 12 to me, I would describe as being like an offline version of 11. And you can't play an MMO as an offline game, otherwise it's just boring. And that's what 12 was. It was dull. So imagine playing 11, or for people who don't play Final Fantasy 11, World of Warcraft. Imagine playing that but by yourself with no other players connected to it at all. It would suck. And it's like, the other problem I have just thinking about it is the fact that you can only control one character at a time. Like, you have the Gambit system, but it doesn't work. It's useless. And so you basically, your other characters that you aren't the one you're controlling. You end up running around in circles and having seizures and stuff, and you have no control over them. They're absolutely retarded, and so you just constantly die. And that's another gripe I have with it. It's impossibly hard. It's because the thing is, they use the MMO kind of system where you have to be constantly grinding for levels and stuff, and you shouldn't have to do that. It should just flow nicely. Like, it should be challenging, but you shouldn't have to constantly grind for levels, otherwise it's just impossibly hard. Because it's just not, grinding is not fun unless you can do it online with other people, and doing that on your own with a bunch of AI characters that are barely like useful at all, it's just not fun. It's not interesting, and that was the main problem I had with it. And my biggest concern now is that, well, not my biggest concern, I have a lot bigger concerns outside of computing. My biggest Final Fantasy related concern at the moment is that they're going to use the same system for 13, and from the demo it looks like they're not. It looks like they're going back to something closer to the original system, which, to be honest, would be a very, very good thing. To me, anyway. I really just have to say that to me 12 was the worst one they've ever done by far and away, and maybe someday I'll get around to finishing it, but probably not. I just think they took too big a departure from they had a system that worked and that everyone liked, and then they just changed it, and some people liked it. It tended to be the more action game. They turned it into an action game, and Final Fantasy is not supposed to be an action game, but that's what they've done with it. And I don't know, I just sincerely hope they change it back for 13 and for future ones, if there are going to be any future ones. I don't know. I'd like to think there would be. But if they're going to go the same way as 12 did, then maybe it's best that they just end it as soon as possible. But yeah, this has gone on far too long. But those are the reasons that I dislike 12 so much. So don't talk to me about Final Fantasy 12. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't exist, or it's not a Final Fantasy game. It isn't. It's a cruddy. Well, not cruddy. It's a generic action game with the name Final Fantasy slapped on it. But in terms of the Final Fantasy series, I refuse to acknowledge it as a Final Fantasy game. So there you go. So there. Thank you for listening. Goodbye. Post your comments if you disagree or if you agree. Whatever. Bye bye.